Hey YouTube, Tony from Tacoma, Washington. Today I wanted to talk to you about strops and stropping compound, what's been working for me. In years past, I used to strop on just plain leather with no stropping compound, and truthfully I didn't get very good results. My knives would actually get duller at the end of the stropping process than before I began. And then about 6 or 7 years ago, I learned about stropping compound on YouTube. So I bought my first set of Bark River stropping compound. I bought black compound and green compound, along with a DLT extra large strop, which was 2 inches by 12 inches. That was my first ready-made professional strop that I'd ever used. And that really made the difference. My knives were sharper and more refined than they'd ever been before. I could easily cut paper the way they do on YouTube after stropping with the Bark River compound. And then a few years ago, I was watching Virtual Vice on YouTube, and he was saying how good the white Bark River compound is, how he actually prefers the white compound over the green compound. So again, I went to DLT Trading and I bought a bar of the white compound to give it a try. And since I only had a double-sided strop and with green on one side and black on the other, I decided to make myself a new strop a little bit larger than what I had to put the new white compound on to see how I would like it. And I did like it. The white compound really worked very well. It worked just like Virtual Vice said, it worked better than the green. And the larger strops were also really beneficial. So let me show you those new strops. I made those new strops a full 18 inches by 3.5 inches, which was a huge difference over my 2 inch by 12 inch previous strop. I found that extra length and width very beneficial. As a matter of fact, I liked that extra width and length so much, I made a whole set of strops to put my black compound, green compound, and new white compound on. And here's those new strops. I have the smooth side out on just plain leather. I plan on using that on a diamond compound. Then I have the rough side out for the white compound. I have the rough side out for the black compound, and I have the rough side out for the green compound. I also made this little base with some rubber legs to keep things from sliding around when you're actually using the strops. And the strops just fit and just snap down into the base. It's a pretty snug fit to keep things from having any movement in them. And that's all there is to it. Okay, I wanted to give you a demonstration on how I actually use my strop. Typically, I'll finish on my stone. I typically use a Lansky system, but sometimes I'll use wet sandpaper. I might use a whetstone. I use a variety of honing instruments to set my bevel, but primarily I'll use a Lansky. And I'll usually finish at about 1500 grit on a ceramic stone. So when I start stropping, I've already used a 1500 grit ceramic stone to smooth out my edge. And so what the point is, the black compound that I start with is 3000 grit, and it's designed to take the scratches that the 1500 grit ceramic stone left behind. And then I move to the green compound, and that's about 6000 grit, and that's designed to take the scratches out that the 3000 grit black left behind. And then the white is about 12,000 grit, and the purpose of that is to take the scratches out that the 6000 grit green compound left behind. Typically what I'm finding is that with these harder steels, like this Benchmade Contigo has M390, it's rock welded at about 61 or 62. And for me to get the steel to actually get polished, it takes a bit of downforce. Now, some people on YouTube say that you shouldn't use too much downforce when you're stropping because it'll push into the leather and roll your edge. What I'm finding is if I don't use adequate pressure, the stropping process doesn't work well. So I typically put quite a bit of pressure on the black compound, a lesser amount of pressure on the green compound, and then I end up with probably, using 3 or 4 or 5 pounds of pressure with the white compound. Okay, so this is just a guesstimate, but I would say that with the black compound, I probably apply about 15 pounds of downforce. And then with the green compound, I probably use about 10 pounds of downforce. And then with the white compound, I use about 5 pounds. And then at the end of the white process, I lighten those strokes up a little bit. Now some folks on YouTube will say that the angle that you hold your blade on the strop isn't critical. I find that not to be the case. I find that I get the best results when I match the same angle on the strop as I did during the honing process. With this knife, I honed it to 17 degrees per side, and I'm doing the best I can to strop it at 17 degrees per side. And what I end up with is a mirror polished edge that slices paper quite easily. Again, this is a 17 degree per side edge, so 34 degrees inclusive, and it slices paper as good as almost any thin kitchen knife I have. Okay, but how sharp is this knife really? Or how can I tell the difference in sharpness between this knife and another knife? Or how can I see an improvement if I finish this knife with the 1500 grit Lansky ceramic stone? Do I see an improvement when I use the Bark River black compound at 3000 grit? Is there a way to test that? If I use the green 6000 grit compound, do I see an improvement over the black compound? And now that I've bought this white 12,000 grit compound, how can I test this edge to see if I'm getting an improvement over the 6000 grit black compound? Well, this is how I test my edge. It's not scientific, but it's the method that's been working for me for a number of years now. Using phone book paper, I slice the thinnest ribbon of paper off one edge that I possibly can. The thinner the ribbon, the sharper the edge has to be. I use the numbers on the phone book paper as a guide to tell me how sharp the knife is. Is it able to cut a ribbon of paper 2 numbers wide, or 1 number wide, or 3 numbers wide? I attempt to refine my edge to the point that it can cut 2 letters wide to 1 letter wide with reasonable assurance. What I found with the green compound is that cutting a strip of paper 1 letter wide to 1.5 to 2 letters wide was usually the best I could achieve. However, with the white compound, I'm able to achieve an edge that can cut 1 letter wide reasonably easily and even get down to 1/2 a letter wide in some cases.